Wow, Charlie. So there's so many things to talk about here. But Chuck Schumer, 2 days ago, basically had Democrats walk the plank. And then last night he sawed it off. And here we are today now with a win for Donald Trump and Democrats completely in disarray. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Oh, no. And I was trying to think about it. I think the last time I saw Democrats in this much disarray was probably in 2004 after John Kerry lost to George W. Bush. And that was even that wasn't even as bad as this time because, of course, George W. Bush was running as an incumbent, and so he had the sort of the power of the incumbent. They are completely lost, and it's so much worse because they have lost because Donald Trump has cannibalized all of their good issues. He's taken every single good issue they have and taken it away from them, so that they're left with this insane situation where they're threatening a government shutdown. They are the party of government. They're the party of government is the answer to all your problems, and we're going to shut it down. And then, of course, as you point out, he saws the plank off and leaves Democrats holding the bag, and you have a situation where you have Senate Democrats versus House Democrats. You have leadership Democrats versus other leadership Democrats. One other thing I think is kind of interesting is as Nancy Pelosi kind of fades into the background, I swear, I know Republicans tend to not like her, but she was so gifted at keeping Democrats together. Yeah. And we are seeing her absence right now.
But she's also present because, Judge, she's saying that Schumer needs to go and that the Senate leadership has completely failed. I find it so interesting that you have Hakeem Jeffries, who lives down the street from Chuck Schumer in Brooklyn. That's a little awkward. Neighbors is not being the one who said who should primary him. It's AOC, also down the street.
Yeah, it's interesting that AOC, just kind of as an aside before I get into it, with the, the division between the House Dems and the Senate Dems, but AOC is doing some interesting things. I think that whether or not Hakeem Jeffries wants to admit it, I mean, they're furious with Schumer's. If you think about it, I mean, he's the one with the Corona beer, and he was at all the Doge protests and the avocados, and he was singing, and he was doing the videos, and now all of a sudden he did a U-turn. Honestly, I think it was a smart move. I don't think the Democrats realize that because they would have given Donald Trump power to decide, who gets paid, what's considered an essential job. And so Donald Trump could say, you people are not essential, so you're not going to get paid. I mean, Schumer was between a rock and a hard place, and he made the decision not to shut the government down. But we all know that the party in power is the one that suffers when the government is shut down. But I want to go to AOC. Now, AOC is doing what Gavin Newsom is doing. She said that she's going to start going into the red districts and town halls, and she's going to go out there with Bernie Sanders. And I think the time for her is now or never. I think she is making a decision that, you know what? I think that this is the time for me to get out there because Schumer is out of sync with us. And if there's anything that she has done in the last few years since she's come to Congress, she's become more thoughtful. And she's become more reasoned, and she makes it clear what it is that she's thinking. So they've got a real divide within the party, and I think that she is the one who might be able to put it all together.
So, Harold, from a strategy perspective, this was a situation where Democrats initially wanted to shut the government down, saying they could blunt President Trump's agenda. Then they realized what the judge just said about Trump actually having more power in a shutdown to say, we just need essential workers. Now everybody else who's not working, Doge can say, why are they employed by the federal government at all? So now they're in this position where they're voting for the CR, but it's actually a Biden-level spending CR. So it's not like they're really losing that much. And now you have this infighting within the party, and AOC, who is admittedly far left, is the one who's getting the credit for being the one bringing people together.
Well, good to be here. Happy Friday. I think that's one perspective that you just laid out there, Katie. And I think I get the political downfall, as the judge was saying, for Democrats. They didn't support this. And the reality is this looks a lot like the spending numbers from last year. But when you're out of ideas, it seems like my party is, you seem to kind of be out of focus. And as a result, you see these kinds of machinations. We should not forget a week ago, there was a back and forth between Republicans in the House about what this bill should look like and whether or not they could bring all of their party together. So this consternation around this bill has been bipartisan. To Chuck Schumer's probably going to face a primary challenge from one of the names mentioned, including the Congresswoman from Congresswoman AOC or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she will be a formidable opponent because I think what Mr. Schumer probably didn't calculate right. No one knows what he was standing for here. If he just decided I'm going to flip, you got to have a reason. I've always said any politician can change his or her mind, and I always accept when someone comes to my side. But you're not perceived as being authentic if you don't explain why you made the change. I think there were Democrats that wanted some concessions from Republicans. Maybe they couldn't have achieved them or couldn't have won them. But this may be the worst of all worlds. Wouldn't it have been great if Chuck Schumer had said, hey, here's what we want. Here's what our plan looks like. We're calling for a vote on our budget, which we have a Lift Every American Child Act, which will promote and hire teachers who do a good job, have real enforceable, accountable academic standards in our schools, and provide every kid with a summer job and internship to help foster good work skills and understand what it means to be in the real world. Lower taxes on people earning enough. Just something that Democrats could have rallied around, even if Republicans didn't allow it to come up for a vote. So in a lot of ways, I think this may be, I think the government not closing, you said it well at the end, Judge, the party in power normally catches the blame on these kinds of things. I don't want government to shut down, but I think the country needs to be given an alternative. And unfortunately, only the alternative it seems like Mr. Schumer gave Democrats was just a flip-flop.
So Greg, you know who else lives in New York?
Who?
Harold Ford.
I love
that he'd be a good alternative to AOC to run for Senate.
I wish he would run for something. You know, just to get him off this table.
He's going to run away from you.
You know, the Dems are like, you know, that hurts.
Yeah.
Democrats are like that kind of lonely, unpopular neighbor that's next to the neighbor throwing an amazing kegger. And that unpopular neighbor is trying to figure out, do I try to sneak in and join the fun, or do I call the cops on them and break up the party? They decided to try to sneak in because they know, you know, you don't want to be the party that's only known for one thing: stopping people from having fun. It's like a heckler at a comedy club. The heckler is hated not just by the comedian, but by the entire crowd, especially if the comedian is good. They want you thrown out of there. Plus, I mean, think about shutting down the government. If you shut down the government, that doesn't shut down Doge, does it?
No.
It's like you could shut down the government, come back, and your Che Guevara desk calendar could be gone. So maybe you keep the government open so you can make sure that you've got an eye on Doge. Mark Kelly is kind of disappointing to me. He puts the ass in astronaut. Here's a guy who spent years guilting us over climate change, and then he sells his electric car, and what does he buy? A Chevy Tahoe. Tahoes consume gas like The View consumes pie. And something tells me that he had planned that he didn't just like, oh, I'm selling my EV. It was planned a long time ago. He was exploiting that sale for a virtue signal. I do this all the time. I'll give a scented candle to Kat. She go, I'm so nice that you thought of me. She doesn't know that Dana gave it to me. You know, it's just like he just exploited it. By the way, if you sell your electric car, it doesn't hurt Musk. You already paid for it, so it doesn't matter. But virtue signaling always supersedes common sense. If Trump came out against assault, you know, leftists would punch themselves in the face. And just lastly, not enough has been said about the violence directed at these Tesla dealerships and how they relate to the stock drop. Because why would somebody buy something that puts a target on their back? So it's mob pressure that is used to kill demand. It's social extortion. That's nothing else. And Tesla, in a way, has become like a MAGA hat that gives you an excuse to throw something at it, you know?
Well, here's the moment. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer backed down on his threats to force a shutdown.
While the CR bill is very bad, the potential for a shutdown has consequences for America that are much, much worse. I believe it is my job to make the best choice for the country, to minimize the harms to the American people. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open and not shut it down.
I can't believe I'm saying this. It's kind of an odd sentence, but a truthful one. Schumer drew praise from President Trump. That's a rarity. Saying this: congratulations to Chuck Schumer for doing the right thing. Took guts and courage. Wow. But Schumer's fellow Democrats, as you can imagine, are outraged. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand was reportedly heard screaming during a Democratic lunch meeting. And per Axios, one House Democrat called it a complete and utter meltdown. Two others said people are furious. And AOC went on the record calling Schumer's decision a betrayal.
Just to see Senate Democrats even consider acquiescing to Elon Musk, I think it is a huge slap in the face, and I think that there's a wide sense of betrayal if things proceed as currently planned.
How will House Democrats and Senate Democrats work together now if there is such a sense of betrayal?
I think that creates a real challenge.
So what's really interesting about all of this, Tommy, is there's a Democratic meeting in Leesburg, Virginia. It's taken place over the last few days. It's House Democrats there, and apparently they're all angry. So from leadership on down, from centrists to leftist extremists, but they've arrived at one consensus. Here's what they can all agree on, Tommy. This is CNN. The member who CNN was speaking with said that Democrats in Leesburg were so mad that even centrist Democrats were ready to write checks for AOC for Senate, adding that they have never seen people so mad. Centrist Democrats saying, I want to write a check to a Democratic socialist, so they've managed to anchor the party further left.
So the American people keep trying to tell the Democrat Party, we want you to be more moderate. We want you to care about the working class American. That is your pathway to victory. And the Democrats have decided to put on noise canceling headphones and not listen to them at all. Listen, if Democrats think that caving to the very far left, the AOCs, who in my mind exist in very blue districts and also on social media successfully, if that's the path that they want to take, I mean, far be it for us to stand in their way. However, I think that they are completely ignoring what the American people want. And until they do that, they're going to continue to have this giant rift in the Democrat Party. And those that are more moderate and are more centrist that actually want to win an election within the next 10 years, they're going to have to get a little bit louder, because right now the loudest voices are getting the most attention and they're bringing the whole party down. Good for Chuck Schumer for having a reality check, but if they think the path forward is Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Ilhan Omar, best of luck in the midterms.